Have you ever felt like your mind is a restless sea, tossed about by waves of past regrets and future anxieties? It's a feeling many of us know all too well, a constant hum of worry that steals our peace. Today I want to share a story about a young man who discovered a simple, yet profound secret to calming that inner storm. It's a story that might just change the way you see your own thoughts. Our story begins with Marco, a 24-year-old man who, despite having everything he seemingly needed, was perpetually restless. His mind was a battlefield. One moment, he'd be replaying an embarrassing memory from years ago, cringing at his past self. The next, he'd be fast-forwarding into the future, imagining all the things that could go wrong with his career, his relationships, his life. He was a prisoner of time, trapped between a past he couldn't change and a future he couldn't control. This constant mental time travel left him exhausted, anxious, and utterly devoid of peace. His friends would tell him to just relax or stop overthinking, but for Marco, it wasn't that simple. It felt like his mind had a mind of its own, and it was dragging him through a relentless cycle of worry. Sleep offered little escape, as his dreams were often just a continuation of his waking anxieties. He felt like he was living life on a treadmill, running faster and faster, but getting nowhere, watching the vibrant world pass by in a blur. One day, after a particularly sleepless night, Marco felt he had reached his breaking point. He couldn't go on like this. He'd heard whispers in his village about a wise old man who lived on the outskirts of town. This man, a retired psychologist, was said to possess a unique gift for helping people find tranquility. Skeptical but desperate, Marco decided to seek him out. He thought, what do I have to lose? Maybe this old man had some ancient secret, a magic potion, or a complicated mantra that could finally silence the noise in his head. He journeyed to the old man's simple cottage, his heart a mix of hope and doubt. He found the old man sitting peacefully on his porch, observing the gentle sway of the trees. His presence was calm, and his eyes held a deep, knowing kindness that immediately put Marco at ease. Marco poured out his heart, describing the relentless anxiety, the mental chatter, the feeling of being disconnected from his own life. He explained how his mind was always somewhere else, never here, never now. The old man listened patiently, nodding slowly without interruption. When Marco finished, a long silence hung in the air. But it wasn't an awkward silence. It was a peaceful one. The old man didn't offer complex theories or quick fixes. Instead, he simply smiled and said, I have a task for you. He went inside and returned with a simple ceramic cup, which he filled to the very brim with water. Not a millimeter of space was left. The water's surface trembled on the verge of spilling over. Your task, the old man said, his voice calm and steady, is to carry this cup to the far edge of the village and back to me. The condition is simple, not a single drop must be spilled. Marco was puzzled. He had come seeking profound wisdom and was given what seemed like a child's game. How could carrying a cup of water solve his deep-seated anxiety? It seemed absurd. He wanted to question it, to ask for the real lesson, but something in the old man's serene gaze convinced him to try. He took the cup, his hands already a little shaky from nerves. The water quivered precariously. This was going to be harder than he thought. He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the shimmering surface of the water. He took his first step, and then another, his entire world shrinking to the rim of that cup. The journey began. As he walked, he had to focus with an intensity he hadn't experienced before. Every step had to be deliberate, every movement smooth and controlled. As Marco walked through the village, he was so absorbed in his task that he barely noticed the world around him. The usual sights and sounds that would trigger his anxious thoughts, the gossip of neighbors, the laughter of children, the barking of a dog faded into a distant, irrelevant hum. His mind, which was usually a whirlwind of thoughts about yesterday's mistakes and tomorrow's worries, had gone completely silent. There was no room for anxiety. There was no room for regret. There was only the cup. There was only the water. There was only the present moment. His entire consciousness was dedicated to the simple, immediate act of balancing the water. He felt the texture of the path beneath his feet, the gentle breeze on his skin, the slight strain in his arms. But these sensations didn't trigger thoughts. They simply were. He was fully, completely present. It was a state of pure concentration, a form of meditation and motion. He wasn't trying to be present, just was. After what felt like both an eternity and a single moment, Marco returned to the old man's cottage. He placed the cup on the table, his hands steady. He looked down, and to his amazement, not a single drop had been spilled. A sense of quiet accomplishment washed over him. He looked up at the old man, ready for the explanation. The old man smiled warmly. "Tell me, Marco," he asked, "on your journey, did you worry about the argument you had last week? Did you fret about your meeting next month?" Marco thought for a moment and realized he hadn't. "No," he replied, surprised. "I didn't think about any of that." The old man continued, "And why not?" Marco considered this. Because I was completely focused on the cup," he said slowly, the realization dawning on him. "If I let my mind wander for even a second, I would have failed the task." The old man nodded, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. "Exactly," he said. "Your mind was entirely occupied with the present moment. When you are fully present, there is no space for fear of the future or regret for the past. They cannot exist in the now. Peace is not something you find out there, Marco. It is not a destination you arrive at. It is a state you inhabit. It has been inside you all along, buried under layers of unnecessary thoughts." The old man's words were simple, but they struck Marco with the force of a revelation. He had spent years searching for peace externally, thinking it was a prize to be won or a secret to be unlocked. He believed it was somewhere else, in a different time, a different place, or a different version of himself. But the truth was profoundly simple. Peace was right here, right now. It wasn't about adding something to his life, but about subtracting the mental clutter that was obscuring it. The cup of water was a metaphor for life itself. When you focus on the present task, the present moment, with your full attention, the anxieties that plague you simply dissolve. They have no oxygen, no fuel to burn. Marco finally understood. The key wasn't to fight his thoughts or try to suppress his anxiety. The key was to shift his focus, was to anchor his awareness firmly in the present moment. By giving his full attention to whatever he was doing, whether it was walking, eating, or talking, he could prevent his mind from drifting into the turbulent waters of the past and future. He realized that living in the present wasn't about ignoring the past or neglecting to plan for the future. It was about not allowing them to dominate his consciousness and steal the joy of the only moment he ever truly has, the now. The past is for learning, the future is for planning, but life is for living, and living only happens in the present. With a heart full of gratitude and a mind clearer than it had been in years, Marco thanked the wise old man. He walked home, but this time his journey was different. He wasn't rushing, wasn't lost in thought. He noticed the vibrant colors of the flowers along the path. He felt the warmth of the setting sun on his face. He heard the cheerful chirping of the birds. He was present. He was at peace. From that day on, whenever he felt the old familiar waves of anxiety begin to rise, he would remember the lesson of the cup of water. He would take a deep breath and bring his full attention to the sensation of the air filling his lungs, to the feeling of his feet on the ground, to the sights and sounds around him. He learned to anchor himself in the now. His life didn't magically become perfect, but he had found his inner sanctuary, his portable peace. This story isn't just about Marco, it's about all of us. We all carry our own cup of water. It might be a work project, a conversation with a loved one, or simply the act of drinking a cup of coffee. The challenge is to give it our full, undivided attention. To live in the present moment. To practice, not a perfect science. Some days will be easier than others, but every moment we manage to be truly present is a moment of peace reclaimed. So, I invite you to try this. The next time you feel overwhelmed, just pause. Pick one simple thing, the feeling of your breath, the sound of the rain, the taste of your food, and focus on it completely, just for a minute. See what happens. You might just find that the peace you've been searching for has been right here, waiting for you all along. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this moment with me. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content on finding peace and living a more mindful life. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had an experience like Marco's? What helps you stay present? Till next time, be well and be present.